News now from Nepal. Some not-so-diplomatic utterances from China's top diplomat in the Himalayan kingdom. The Chinese ambassador to Nepal, Chen Song, has sparked a controversy with his statements about Nepal's relationship with India and China. Speaking in Kathmandu, the ambassador grossly violated diplomatic conventions as he attempted to project Nepal's ties with India in a negative light while pitching China as a better partner for the Himalayan nation. He said, and I quote, "Unfortunately, you have a neighbor like India. Because India is a huge market, huge potential you can tap into, but at the same time, India's policy towards Nepal and other neighbors are not so friendly and not so beneficial to Nepal." Okay, let's go back to Shri, who is still with us from Washington, D.C. The pot calling the kettle black, that is what the only thing I can think of right now, Shri. Of all countries in the world, China talking about or accusing India of being unneighborly, I mean, that really is very ironical, isn't it? And how undiplomatic of China's top diplomat to make such a statement in public.
Right, Neha. So this is, I would like to call it the Chen Song of, frustration. Why do I say that? Because, under the Belt and Road Initiative, China and Nepal had identified multiple projects on which work was to begin, but work has not begun on many of them, at least on the more important ones. So China is really frustrated. It's, asking Nepal to basically raise the money on its own and get these projects going. And Nepal is like very clear. They're saying, unless you give us grants, we don't have the balance sheet, we don't have the wherewithal to implement any of these projects. That is on the Belt and Road Initiative. But the larger picture, Neha, on which China is feeling frustrated is that it is not able to pull China in Nepal away from India and US. So now credit to the Nepalese government. I think Nepal, although it's a very tiny country, I think it's a very, clear of where it wants to be. It doesn't have anything to gain by going into the China camp. Rather, it would maintain good relations with China, of course, but more with India and US. India is strategic importance because we are gateway to the economy. Nepal depends on us for a whole lot of things, including movement of its people, goods, and foreign direct investment into Nepal, and US, because it is the superpower. It is the one which can actually come to Nepal's aid tomorrow if, let's say, there is any kind of a threat, not from India, but from you-know-who. So that they need US also to be on their side. And US will give those, give that sort of an assurance or support only as long as Nepal upholds democracy. It keeps up with the global, balance and the role for peace. So unless that happens, Nepal will not get what it wants, which is security of its own borders. So and China obviously doesn't like the fact that despite being a tiny little country, Nepal is trying to fob them away. But that is a reality which China has to deal with. And just then, poking its, a finger in India-Nepal relations, and saying that Nepal is not benefiting, which is far from the truth, is just a sign of frustration, yet another sign of frustration, Neha, from China.
Clearly, a very frustrated diplomat talking there in a not so diplomatic fashion.